right, a little magic of the screencast here. We're going to talk a little bit about leadership development. All right. Leadership in ag is important, and it's always been important as far as ag goes. Future Farmers of America was founded as a leadership organization for agriculture. FFA is what we have today, and it was a leadership organization as well. So student leadership in agriculture is very important. Our FFA organization is a student-led organization. The advisors advise, but the students decide what they want to do. So. All right, so you can read this. Leaders have the ability to solve problems and set a direction for a group of people is part of that that's important too, because setting a direction for just by yourself is not being a leader. Part of being a leader is by turning around and looking to see if anybody's following you. If nobody's looking around, if nobody's following you, you're not leading. You're walking out on your own. You're freelancing. You're doing your own thing on your own program. We don't want that. We want leadership. All right. Lead means to show the way by going in advance or guiding others' actions or opinions. Lead means to move people in the direction that you think they need to be moved. That is lead. That is leading. So why do we need leadership in agri-science? One of the reasons we need leadership in agri-science is because for years we had small farmers that did their own thing on their own farm, but now we need to group into larger groups. And that's really where leadership comes from. Why leadership is important, because the population of the planet gets bigger. You got more eaters and you got fewer producers. So you need to have leadership in order to make that as efficient as possible. The industry of agri-science is a highly organized structure. It involves people and complex processes, teams that need to be managed, and we need to promote good citizenship. That's what we want out of our agriculture industry. So because of that, we need good leadership, and leadership is really key. Oops, where'd it go? Done disappeared on me. All right. So how do we know who a good leader is? How do we know if somebody's a good leader, if they're just popular? I'm trying to think of somebody that's a good example. We'll talk about Hitler. Was Hitler a good leader? Maybe. Did Hitler possess a lot of the leadership qualities that people needed to be good leaders? Yes. His problem was his motivation. His motivation was pure evil. But he did possess a lot of the traits that good leaders possess. His problem, looking at number one there, was he didn't have integrity. He did not have the interest of all people at heart. He was interested in hurting people, and that is not what you want out of a good leader. Good leaders need to have integrity. They need to be somebody you can trust. They need to have knowledge of whatever they're trying to lead for. They need to be courageous, because leadership is a bravery position. A lot of times we need to be brave in order to be good leaders. So courage is important, because you're putting yourself out in front of everybody. And a lot of times people don't like to do that. We need to be tactful. Best way I ever heard tact described was, tact is the ability to tell somebody to go to heck and have them looking forward to the trip. Not everybody has tact. I'm probably not the most tactful person in the world, but someone who can tell somebody that they're doing something wrong in a nice manner is a good trait of a good leader. You don't want somebody just hollering directions. Somebody who's just hollering directions does not necessarily mean that they're leading. That's somebody just standing there hollering. Enthusiasm. You need to be excited about what it is that you're working for. Selflessness. You need to place the good of the group above yourself. That's something else that's important in leaders. And finally, loyalty. You need to stick behind your people who are following you. You need to have their back. Without that, you don't have leadership. All right, now, and this is a personal rant, but in my opinion, leadership in the United States is becoming worse and worse and fewer and further between because these leadership organization groups that kids used to join, they don't join them anymore. We're becoming a more individualistic society. We're becoming a more focused me society. We're not becoming a society that's focused on taking the group and making a better group out of it. We're only worried about ourselves. So we need to pay attention to this because a lot of these leadership development opportunities are dying off. They're becoming a thing of the past. People think of this stuff as old-timey. Well, if you don't develop new leaders, guess what? You're going to be left with what you have. Take a look at our presidential election. That's your choice for leaders right there now, guys. Those two people, neither of which is anybody we really want. I definitely have my choice as to who I would pick over the other, but I think everybody in America could tell you that both these clowns are by no means, if they were going to paint the best leader of the United States, would we have picked either of these two? So, without getting too far off the political end, considering we're in leadership, that's important to understand. All right, so some leadership development opportunities. You got 4-H. 4-H, I was never a member of 4-H, but the 4-H's stand for like home and hearth, but it is for developing family and community agri-science related programs. All right, it is not 100% agri-science. It's more almost like agri-science and home ec hand in hand. Scout organizations, the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, Scouting USA, different scouting organizations that exist. They provide opportunities for leadership and skill development in agri-science and other areas. They promote good leadership in all kinds of different areas, not just agri-science. Most leaders have some kind of scouting background of some sort, because that's where they learn how to lead. Of the Apollo astronauts, some like 80% of them were Eagle Scouts. So Eagle Scouts are leaders. All right, FFA. You know what the FFA is a little bit. Sponsors competitive career development events. We tie agri-science and careers together to try and get people to become interested and learn more about careers. All right, so there's different kinds of public speaking. There's 3 different kinds of public speaking available to our students in FFA. There's creed speaking, which is the FFA creed. You can recite the FFA creed that you memorized. There's prepared speaking, which is you delivering a speech. And extemporaneous speaking is they give you a topic and you riff about it, basically. These are all LDEs, which is Leadership Development Events. We'll write that in there. I like blue. LDE. All right. LDE stands for Leadership Development Events. All right. We've got creed speaking, we've got prepared speaking, we've got extemporaneous speaking. You, as an FFA member, can go participate in these different speaking events. They're all LDEs. If you have the time to plan a speech, your best bet is to plan it out a little bit. A perfect speech, excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. You're all afraid that giant head was coming for you there. A good speech starts with an introduction, you have a body, and you have the conclusion. Basically, what I was always told, the best way to give a speech is tell people what you're going to tell them, tell it to them, then tell them what you told them. That is the foundation of a pretty good speech. I wonder if I can move over. Nope. I can turn that blue, which is not what I want. It went away again. I'm going away. Bye. Oh, but I'm still here. You aren't that lucky. All right. Why are you going away on me? Why are you blue? There we go. All right. So giving a speech. If you ever have to give a speech, you should have a teacher make some suggestions to you. You should give your speech yourself in front of a mirror first. Now, this might look weird to you to deliver a speech in front of a mirror, but that's what I was always taught was practice in front of the mirror first. Then once you practice in front of the mirror first, then you can practice in front of somebody else. Maybe a teacher, maybe a parent, maybe one of your friends. Have them make suggestions to you. This is very important. Learn the content thoroughly. If you are giving a speech that is pre-written, which what I mean by that, like a presidential speech. A presidential speech has pre-written. There's no extemporaneous speaking. You're not just talking. You're reading something and delivering it. You need to know that content thoroughly. You need to know what you're saying. If you were an actor, we'd call it learn your lines. All right? You can always record your speech and make corrections. Use a video camera, something like that, and then see what you do. Once you've done that, deliver it in front of a trusted source. Once you've tried all that, hopefully your fear of speaking in front of people, you'll get over. And then finally, you can deliver it in front of class. There's something that I do want to talk about right here, though, and that is this. Fear. All right. Most people have a fear of public speaking. Even people that speak for a living have a fear of public speaking. I talk in front of students all day, every day. You put me in front of a group of my peers, I get nervous and I start shaking. But in reality, most of the time, public speaking is not that bad. It's not a horrible, terrible thing to have happen to you. It's actually probably a good thing for you. But interestingly enough, they did a study and they interviewed a bunch of people and they asked them one simple question. Would you rather give somebody a eulogy, which is a speech about somebody's life at a funeral, or be the dead person in the casket? More people would rather be the dead person in the casket than to speak about a person. So because of that, there is a fear of giving speeches. But one of the good things about learning how to be a public speaker is to get up in front of people. The only way you learn how to do it is by doing it. If you are let your fear petrify you so much that you won't speak in front of a group, there'll be a time at some point in your life when you need to be able to do it and you won't be able to. So take these opportunities you get in high school and use them. You might want to anticipate and prepare for judges' questions, especially if you're doing an LDE, a leadership development event, because your judges will ask you questions. Make statements you're well prepared to defend. Know your subject material. Ask your teacher to critique you for a final approval. Then you can go to a contest for LSA or for FFA, and deliver your speech. Hopefully you win something. All right. Now, this is the thing we've been beaten to death in class. Parliamentary procedure. Parliamentary procedure is based on Robert's Rules of Order. It's a way of conducting a business meeting. And you can see all the different groups that use it. Anytime you have any kind of a meeting that has business to conduct, they're going to follow Robert's Rules of Order. Parliamentary procedure is based in Parliament in England, where people talk funny like this, sort of, not really. But in England, Parliament is the governing body, and they have a procedure that they have to follow. Why do we use this? You discuss one thing at a time. One person talks at a time. You're able to air your opinions in a courteous atmosphere. People listen while you talk. It helps to protect the right of the minority. Now, they're not talking about like minority people, like people who are Chinese or Puerto Rican or whatever. They're talking about the people whose opinion might not be the popular opinion. But at least parliamentary procedure gives people who have that differing opinion from the large group an ability to speak. And sometimes they might be able to change the large group's opinion. And it allows groups to make decisions according to the wishes of the majority. The old saying, majority rules, is still true in the United States. All right, so how do we have a good business meeting? You have to have an effective presiding officer. Your president of your organization should not just be because he's the coolest kid in school. All right, the coolest kid in school may not possess the tools of a leadership to be able to run a meeting. Just because they're a senior and everybody else is a junior, are they the best choice for being the president of your organization? They might be, they might not be. So you have to have somebody who can communicate and somebody who can command a room. A competent secretary is probably your second most important officer. Vice president is not that important of an office because they don't do anything. All right. Treasurer in high school organizations is not that important because they aren't allowed to deal with the money anyway. The adults have to deal with the money because of laws. So because of that, having a good secretary who can write stuff down is important. Having members that know what's going on or have a general idea what's going on is important. That keeps the presiding officer from just ramrodding stuff through the way that he wants it done. Being informed, if you're part of an organization, is important. And you want a comfortable meeting room. You don't want it 100 degrees. You don't want it 40 degrees. You want it where everybody can spend a little bit of time. All right. The order of business. How do we do things? And we talked about this in class. It's items and sequences of activities in a meeting. How do we do this? The first thing we do is a call to order. We tell everybody, okay, the meeting's start. We use two taps of the gavel, click, click, and we're calling the meeting to order. Then the next thing that we do is a roll call. A roll call is not essential, but usually you want to know who's there, especially if in your organization's constitution it requires a quorum to have a meeting. Quorum is an interesting word. Q-U-R-U-M. A quorum is enough people to have a meeting. Most organizations that have a charter, which is the rules that they operate by, require that a quorum be present in order to have a meeting. And a lot of times they have a specific number of people, or they specify it as 50% of the membership. Is it fair to have a meeting when only 3 people showed up? Not really. So having a quorum is important in a lot of different organizations. Next thing we do is we read and approve the minutes. The minutes are just basically a summary of what happened last meeting. We deliver a treasurer's report because any group that has money, we need to know how much money they have and where it's going. Reports of other officers and committees. We have committee meetings outside of the main meeting, and they deliver a report on what their committee's up to. Then, after all that's taken care of, it's kind of formalities, Old business. We resolve things that we didn't finish last meeting. Once we finish old business, we can start new business, but you can't bring up new business till you finished old business. After we've gone through our new business, we adjourn, which means that we leave. You can only adjourn a meeting if the membership votes to adjourn. So you have to make a motion to adjourn, you have to second it, and then you have to take a vote. And then you might have some other items or activities, but those can't be taken care of until or before. Those all have to be taken care of before you adjourn the meeting, because when the meeting's over, it's over. People are going home. Like me in a few minutes. All right, gavel. The gavel is always, for all I know, been a long time, has been a symbol of authority. All right, the guy with the gavel's in charge. That's why judges use gavels. All right, the guy who's running a meeting has the gavel. The president, the secretary doesn't have a gavel. The president's probably the best word. They use the gavel. The gavel is used to call the meeting to order. It's called to end the meeting, and it's used to call the meeting back into order whenever things are going crazy. So, but that's part of parliamentary procedure. And recognition and permission to speak, saying, Mr. President, and then he's called on you, you're allowed to speak then. That allows everybody to get a chance to speak. So that's important. All right, parliamentary practices. Motion presentation. What do I got to do for parliamentary procedure? First thing I got to do is make a main motion. Then I can amend the main motion. I can refer, like, over to a committee. I can lay it on the table. I can make a point of order, which is a clarification. And then finally, I can adjourn. But these are all different things that can happen with a motion. They're pretty well described in your textbook. All right, now, I'm not going to read these to you. You can see these, but this is what can happen. There's a picture of these in your textbook as well. So, all right, thank you very much, y'all. This is the PowerPoint. Now, there's also going to be a little handout that I'm going to upload about FFA and the FFA uniform. Make sure you read that. It's going to be there as well. Thank you. Well, stop it.